I'm sure everyone's been in the position where there's something that you really like that just seems to fly under everyone else's radar. A book franchise that you think people underrate, a movie no one else seems to like as much as you, or a game that most people were willing to slap Undertale or Friday Night Funkin' onto and leave it at that. For me, that would probably be Everhood. Don't get me wrong, the game has a community and has been covered by some big names, but I feel like it never got the recognition it deserves as its own game. Every video title is about this incredible new Undertale-like game, or Undertale meets a rhythm game, or something like that. And while this was probably inevitable, every pixel art indie game gets compared to Undertale, and even though the game was inspired by Undertale, can we just stop with the comparisons, please? I know it's good for the clicky-clickies on YouTube, but when all you see of Everhood is it getting compared to Undertale and how it's just like Undertale and Undertale, and it kind of diminishes what Everhood is in and of itself. You take this whole Everhood pie and shrink it down to fit the Undertale-like box instead of letting it be its own thing. And I find that really disappointing, because what Everhood has to offer itself is really good. But what actually is that? Well, it's a little difficult to explain. Everhood describes itself as an ineffable tale of the inexpressible divine moments of truth.
And I have exactly zero fucking clue what that means, so it must be pretty accurate. Things definitely happen throughout the game. There were characters. Beyond that, it's kind of a wild ride with you at its helm, but it's an enjoyably wild ride with you at its helm, so I would definitely recommend playing it yourself if you haven't yet. What do I think is the best moment of the game then?
Well, to me, the best scenes of any game encapsulate what it is that game is in my mind. The scenes that you remember first when you think about playing it. The scenes that let you know exactly what experience you are in for when you start playing. And for me, the scene that really tipped me off as to just how Everhoodian Everhood could get was the incinerator scene. I don't mean to say it's the only scene like it. Another of the more Everhoodian scenes is the gnome fight. It's wacky, it's funny, and the music is damn good. But that comes after the incinerator, so the game had already tipped off as to just exactly what it was willing to be, and I don't think it was quite as impactful. But what exactly do I think makes the incinerator scene Everhoodian? Well, it's a lot of things. Perhaps the most important is the subversion of expectations. Everhood loves to play with what you're expecting to happen, and what you're expecting they're expecting you to expect to happen, and what you're expecting that they're expecting that you're expecting that they're expecting you to expect to happen, and what you're expecting that they're expecting that you're expecting that they're expecting you're expecting that they're expecting that you're expecting you to expect to happen, you're expecting that you to expect to happen. Well, you get the point. There are elements of this in the incinerator scene. When I caught up to the Blue Thief, I was expecting to have a fight, like I'd had before, to try and get my arm back. I wasn't expecting to be chucked into an incinerator. When I was chucked in the incinerator, I was expecting to die, not partake in a dodging minigame, and so on and so forth. Another important aspect of what makes this scene work is the fantastic music.
This also works with the whole subverting expectations thing, because it really does come out of nowhere and the music is absolutely amazing. This is extremely important to make the scene represent the game, because the music the whole way through is incredible, so if this scene had bad music, it wouldn't be representing the whole very well.
Another, perhaps more minor, aspect of what makes the scene work is the comedic elements. From the ridiculous flaming overlay, the distortion as though the heat is affecting the screen,
And especially the confetti if you survive Incinerator 1.
the difficulty plays a role in the Everhoodianness of the scene as well. I would describe Everhood's difficulty as quite difficult, but never unfair, especially in the later, more challenging fights.
I think the Incinerator does a pretty good job of setting this standard. The attacks are quick and somewhat hard to follow, but always follow predetermined paths, so once you know what to do, it's really not that hard.
Chances are you'll die horribly on your first attempt, and your second attempt, and your third attempt, but given a couple more tries, you're essentially guaranteed victory, eventually. If you do succeed, you get the confetti, and then get to attempt the much, much more difficult
Incinerator 2.
The main differences being that Incinerator 2 has RNG segments, faster attacks, different, harder to dodge attacks, and much more. If you survive Incinerator 2, you get a slightly different cutscene, but it's not that different. And then the story moves on from there, onto more Everhoodian-ness full content. Anyway, that's not all I have to say about Everhood, but I think that's about all I have time for. I've been ridiculously busy working on about 3 different much bigger projects recently, but I wanted to actually finish something before I go back to uni, so here it is. Might make a proper big video essay about Everhood eventually, but that probably won't be for a little while. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, criticisms, or queries, please leave a comment, and feel free to hit any of the buttons you want. Any of them. You have my permission. Go hog wild. Oh shit, would you look at the time? I've got some math to do. So, yeah. Au revoir.